talking about makeup and a movie, where I do my makeup.
And I talk about a movie.
And today we are talking about
Hidden Figures.
Which we just rented, and it's fantastic. We're going to talk about that. But I'm going to do a makeup look with this Carli Bybel Deluxe Edition palette. Last week I basically used this almost every single day just to kind of figure out all the different looks you can create from this. We also did a swatch out. I will leave that below so you can see all the swatches of everything in here. But before we start, make sure you don't miss out on any interactive opportunities. Like, subscribe, and something new we're doing is if you hit that notification button so that you get notifications anytime we post something new, and comment below Zainey notifications, you will get a shout out in a future video, which is really awesome. We're gonna talk about you and put your information in the description box so people can follow you as well. Don't forget to comment if you, again, have used this palette, like this palette, have both. If you want to compare the two, whichever is great. And one more thing that we want to tell you is if you notice the t-shirt.
Take a stand.
The t-shirt is actually made by Marshall, obviously. He did all the graphics and everything like that. You can get your own on TeePublic. You can also get like stickers, you can get notebook covers, mugs. I mean, you can get this design on a lot of different things. So if you want this, I will put the link below for that. And he also has a bunch of other designs, which he does a design every week, and he holds a contest. So if you guys have a design you want on a t-shirt that you're like, I would wear a t-shirt of this, I need this, send us a little message in the comments below and say, hey, I want this, and follow him on Instagram because that's how you'll find out where he does this. I think every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday I'll start up a different contest. I tend to cycle between one that is a request, where you can request just about anything, and brand new design, where if you have a brand that you would like to have represented on a shirt or other merchandise, you can contact me and I will turn your brand into a whole new design around your philosophy.
And also, we do have a couple other t-shirts that we got. The first winner of it, my friend Aura from Oops Wrong Cookie, her design was chosen as the first one. That shirt is coming because they had to reprint it because of some issues. And then my friend Autumn at Bottled Tea Design, she was the second person. We do a lot of promo for her sticker company, and she also has a t-shirt out, which is also coming, and I'm super excited to wear those in videos for you guys because it's amazing. So if you want your logo or brand or something like that created, he can do that too. If you want to put it on a t-shirt too, he's your man. So enough about that. Let's jump on in. So the Carli Bybel palette, here it is. For this look today, there is a lot of shimmer and a lot of matte in this palette, but what I think I'm going to do is there are no names for the colors. I'm going to use this on my lid right here. I'm going to use this one in the crease right here, and then this one also in the crease because it's a little darker. We're going to go for shades of darker in a rosy color. And then from there, I will tell you what I'm going to do after that.
Very nice. Hidden Figures is a movie that's all about these three ladies who are working as calculators at NASA before the space program really got going to the moon.
Well, they call them computers.
They call them computers. They are computers, because at that point, the IBM machines were still being installed. It took even longer for them to install them and figure out how to actually get them to work, even though they had technicians from IBM to help them.
They didn't know what they were doing. And we have an interesting perspective of background for this topic because our father worked at IBM. Before I was born, he started working at IBM, and he worked there for 25 years. And so when we saw those computers that they were putting in there, we're like, it's vaguely similar because we'd go and visit him at work and we'd see these huge server machines and we were like, dang, that's a computer. And now, look, the computer is now this big.
Yep.
You know,
well, that's the whole thing. IBM, most people will be looking at them and going, well, yeah, it's like a PC. IBM has been all about servers and large-scale computers ever since they started. Their name means International Business Machines. So
therefore, yeah, large calculations, doing it fast.
But before they came along, everything had to be done by hand in your head. And that's why they had this huge pool. Like some companies would have a secretarial pool, they had this computer pool, just a whole bunch of women who were really good with numbers.
Which is funny because, I mean, they did have guys do it, but, like, the pool was only women, which is not something that they really touched on a whole bunch. It was more about, you know, the African-American side of it. But very subtly, you can also see that it is also about the women's side because the women were either administrative assistants, receptionists, or they were in this pool where they got chosen to be a computer. And there was an African-American pool, and then there was, you know, the white girls pool. And so they would pick from both of those, depending on, you know, who had the skills necessary, who knew what kind of math. And it just goes to show you, like, wow. See, women have always had this ability, this smartness, but maybe they just didn't get the recognition for what it was they did to get a permanent higher position within a company.
You have enough millennia of patriarchal patronization, and you know, people are going to start thinking women are dumb when really they're, most of the time they end up being smarter than guys. I prefer the company of women, actually. So when you're watching this movie, it's following three main characters. You have one young lady, her name is Katherine Johnson, and she was a brilliant prodigy at mathematics. You also have two other young ladies. One of them is the head of that computer pool. Not an official head at that point, because they didn't want to give black people in general an overseer's role because of prejudice. But then there's also one other who is an engineer in her own head, and she understands all of these concepts.
She's an engineer in her head?
Well, I mean, her head is engineered.
Oh, yeah, so yeah. She's inclined to the engineering. Yeah. She doesn't totally have all the classes necessary to be an engineer, but she does have an inclination to engineering in general, yes.
Well, actually, that goes even further. Like, she does have a lot of the necessary classes. It's that when the movie begins and she tries to apply to get into the wind tunnel, they change the requirements on her. That's right. Mm-hmm. Requiring her to get classes from one particular place that only accepts white people. So she has to fight a legal battle, and you have our main calculator, Catherine, as she has been brought into the Space Task Force to do all the calculations for takeoff and re-entry. And at first, she's all about being the fact checker, making sure that all the numbers are going in and out correct for all these mathematical equations that they're generating. But it rapidly becomes apparent that she is better than a good number of the people in that room.
What's really funny that kind of struck me as interesting in that whole part is, you know, we in our household, we watched a lot of different movies and TV shows about the space race. Mm-hmm. And, you know, your entire life you hear, oh, well, we need to get to the moon first, or we need to get into space first, when they're talking about that whole thing to beat the Russians. So I don't know, it just never dawned on me that the extent of what we didn't know and what we had to overcome in order to do it. And I think this movie was really great because they really break it down into, well, if we don't have this mathematical equation correct, then they won't make it back into the atmosphere. And I was just kind of like, you just don't understand how important math can be, and the different theorems and how you do different things can be to this kind of thing. Like, it never hit me like that. I don't know why. I probably should have, because it's science and math, and that tends to go a lot together. But that, to me, like, I think hit me really hard in this movie.
It's because of the two different forces that we're dealing with. We're talking about velocity, and we're talking about gravity. And what you're doing when you're in orbit is that you're actually always falling, but you're also shooting yourself fast enough that as you fall, you miss the planet. So you're constantly falling around the planet. Right. Then when you're re-entering, you have to balance gravity versus friction, because as you're going through, the friction of the atmosphere against the capsule heats it up. Now, that leads to a problem near the end, where they realize, oh, wait, we're getting this issue with the heat shield. Did we lose the heat shield? This was a real problem.
Yeah, it was. Before we go into that problem, I'm going to do the little highlight like right above the eyes into the brow bone. I think what I want to do, let's use this one right here, this white highlighty color just right in here, and then like maybe right there, using this really tiny brow brush. And then I think for the lids, I want to use, ooh, this rosy color right here.
Yeah.
We're going to put that right on the lid, and then we'll come back and see what else. I did use this really dark color right here on my lower lash line just to connect the color. I think I might need to do that a little bit more as we talk.
Yes. Now, the problem that we saw was exactly how they saw it at the time. When you're watching the movie, they're saying that there was a problem with the pontoons that they had that was supposed to cause it to float back up once it got into the ocean. They had said that it was it had already deployed a little bit, and that the micro boosters that were supposed to be used for re-entry and then jettisoned had held it into place, so they kept it on. Well, what had actually gone wrong is that the switch went bad. That was supposed to say whether or not the landing bag had deployed.
Oh, okay.
So the landing bag had not deployed. There was nothing physically wrong that could have hurt this re-entry at any point. So what they did ended up being just unnecessary, and when they saw the capsule come back in, some people saw things fall off and burn out, and that was actually the retro boosters that they were supposed to have jettisoned anyway. So there was nothing wrong with that, just a switch said something deployed when it didn't.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty interesting.
What's really funny about us talking about this is, in watching this movie, my husband, whose birthday is coming up, was like, I have never been to Kennedy Space Center, and we've lived here for almost 7 years, and he's like, I've never been there, and I'm like, I haven't been there in forever. So we decided we're actually going to plan a trip out there, so we'll probably be vlogging a little bit so you guys can see Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, they've added a lot since the last time I was there.
Exactly, because it's not really a working space center in the way that it used to be. It does do stuff, but just not the way it used to be. All right, now that I've done with that part of the eye look, I am going to be using the Kat Von D liquid liner, and then I'm going to be using the Kat Von D liquid lip in Melancholia. I want to get one of the newer colors that's coming out, but I did have this, and I thought this would be a really nice kind of like pinky shade to offset the rose that we have going on. So yes, that is what we're doing there.
Good. Now, this is a movie that is based entirely off of true events, but there's some minor differences that they took and tweaked in order to make it easier to understand and easier to comprehend.
Right.
For example, Paul Stafford, who's played by Jim Parsons, and the Vivian Mitchell, Kirsten Dunst, their characters were actually combinations of different people throughout all of NASA. So they were not actual characters, actual real people. They were used to represent the dismissive attitudes towards black people in NASA at the time. There's a major scene with this issue with the bathrooms that they kind of played throughout, where Katherine Johnson constantly had to walk all the way across the NASA campus to a different wing to use the colored bathrooms, which was a thing they did at the time. Colored bathrooms, colored cars, colored water fountains, and even a colored coffee pot. And it kind of comes to a head, and she blows up in front of everybody about how she has to walk all this way in the rain. They won't even touch her coffee pot, and her boss does away with all of that. He says, one of the best lines in this movie, we all pee the same color. This did actually happen, but it did not happen to Katherine Johnson. It was actually happening to the young lady who was in the wind tunnel team. So when it's the incident that actually got her into the wind tunnel team, where she was ranting about this in front of some of her coworkers. Somebody overheard that and went, oh, this has to change. And that led into her actually getting into the wind tunnel team. But they tweaked that around to make it the legal battle, so that we could see a little bit more about that, about the legal side of this racial battle.
Right.
Yeah. So, how are you doing with this look? Anything else you want to add in?
No, I am done.
That's great.
You can tell I did go a little bit 60s, 50s, 60s in my look, just to kind of pay homage, but I really like it, especially with my new hair color. It seems like it, kind of goes together.
I actually really like how your eye does look with your hair. It's a nice blend of the redder colors up in here into the more rosy tones here, and then into the rest of the face.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you also join us on Wednesdays, Fridays,
and sometimes Sundays.
And until then,
stay zany.
Bye-bye.